Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this wonderful webinar we have with our guest speakers today, Mr. Keith Bowers and Kenneth Tate. My name is Chrissy Souders, and I will be the producer behind the scenes taking all of your questions and comments. So make sure that you go ahead and post those in the comments section. We'll make sure to get it to all of our speakers today. But first and foremost, I want to send it off to Mr. Daryl Jones with the Office of Economic Vitality.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce two important gentlemen who are, excuse me, it's not snowing, it's pollinating. One of the fringe benefits of living in the Panhandle. But again, allow me to tell everyone welcome to this important continuation of our series of MWSBE Academy webinars. We're grateful to have with us two important voices in our work, particularly in the work of uplifting and providing additional capacity building activities, exercises, programs, as well as resources to our minority, women, and small business community. First, we have Mr. Kenneth Tate, who one is an inaugural member of our MWSBE Citizen Advisory Committee. He is also an entrepreneur, having had his own construction company now for more than 2 decades, Haggai Construction, and is a public servant who provides his important leadership for the Florida Department of Transportation, also in a responsibility where he ensures that minority and women-owned businesses are utilized to ensure the great work of infrastructure for the state of Florida. So we're happy to have him with us to talk with us about bid estimating. And then a person who's no stranger to our MWSBE academies. He is the guru. He is a Reggie Roll Economic Development Champion of the Year. I went to Florida A&M University. I believe he was at FAMC, the School of Business and Industry. So he is not only smart, he is wise. And that is my good friend, Mr. Keith Bowers, the Regional Director of the Family Small Business Development Center. And today, as a part of our capacity building series done through our MWSBE academies, these two gentlemen will talk to you about bid estimating. And as you all know, that bid estimating and providing the right resources is critical for a business to succeed in a competitive procurement environment, to make certain that they bid their jobs appropriately, competitively, and that the bids that they provide are an adequate representation of the true value of the work that is being provided. So these two gentlemen, from their vast experiences, both through analysis as well as providing bids themselves, will be able to give you some insight on that. So without further ado, my friends and colleagues, Mr. FAMU and Mr. Morehouse, Kenneth Tate and Keith Bowers.
All right. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you for that introduction. You always make me feel so old. So I appreciate that. Well, we're here today to talk to the audience and the participants on this webinar about the importance of the bidding process. And as Daryl mentioned, it is vital to our small businesses in the community that we provide some resources for you in terms of supporting you in your efforts to do contracting work with the local government, the state government, as well as the federal government. And then overall, going beyond that point, even out in the private industry, because a lot of times that you have opportunities that present themselves, but private companies also want to have you prepare a bid, and oftentimes they'll shop your proposal with 3 others. So I had the opportunity of working with Kenneth Tate. He has helped with training in the past when the Small Business Development Center ran the Construction Management Development Program. And Kenneth just struck me as a person that has vast industry knowledge and institutional knowledge as it relates to the bidding process, the management, and all those things, estimating all those things that go into the preparation of bids. So what we want to do is just have a conversation with Kenneth today. I'm going to ask him some questions. The audience, please feel free to ask questions too. And if something you need clarification on anything, you can just type that in the chat, and we'll be more than happy to address your questions. So, Kenneth, my initial question for you is, why is the bidding process the lifeblood of any construction company or a company that's involved in the construction trade? Why is that bidding process so important as they operate their business and pursue these opportunities?
Keith, first of all, I want to thank you and Daryl for having me here. And very important question, great question. And I also like to add that I am a proud graduate of the Florida A&M School of Architecture. So I want to correct that. Started at Morehouse, finished at FAMU. There you go. All right. So why is bidding basically the lifeblood of a construction company? Well, simply put, it's the way that you obtain work. I've been, operating this company, and I've been around in the construction game for over 20 years. And I can tell you, I can't count on my one hand how many times I've had a project just fall into my lap. Okay. So if you consider yourself a construction company, you have to be squarely focused on going out there and getting the work. The main way you do that is to have the capacity and the ability to estimate projects, to estimate a project, and to properly bid that project. And those are two separate and distinct tasks.
I see. And a lot of times when we work with clients in the construction industry, one of the major complaints is that they underestimated or underbid a project, and it turns out that they feel that they've left money on the table, or in some instances, or just had enough to break even. So kind of talk to us about maybe some advice in terms of how you approach those, identifying those opportunities. And then once you have identified those opportunities and feel that it might be a match for your company or your skill set, what are some of the mechanics that go into preparing a bid and making sure that you're not leaving money on the table, and that you're not just breaking even, but you're building capacity?
Right. First of all, you're not alone for those people who feel like that, because I think that there's a point in time in almost every bid where we're excited when we get it, but then we start saying, where am I with this? So we all have that feeling. And then at the end of the project, you want to, question yourself and ask yourself, did I really make money? So one approach, the principal approach, is to count the cost. That's actually a biblical concept. This is not a guessing game when it comes to the estimating and bidding process. You have to literally, and I remember the first time I went over this in construction school, the instructor was saying, okay, we have to count everything in this building, every screw, every this, that, and the other. And we literally estimated a 100-story skyscraper and counted every part in the building. Okay. And I'm sitting there saying, is this what I'm getting into? And there's ways to do it now that are a lot more automated, but you have to literally know what you're selling the client, and you have to know what that client is buying, because sometimes you're missing each other. Sometimes the client is selling you something. I mean, if the client is trying to buy something from you and you're selling that client something different. So you have to match what the scope is, understand the scope, and you have to have the ability to visualize building that scope before you actually do it. Okay. And once you're able to count the cost properly, that's going to send you on your way to being able to have a a pretty good estimate of the project. And then with experience or getting experienced people around you, you'll take all that information in order to produce the proper bid. Okay. Getting on to the mechanics of how to do that. Well, it's a project. Just like everything else in construction, it's a small project. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. So you have to have the type of system, whether it is automated or whether it's pen and paper, you have to have that type of system to be able to computate and to take off, meaning doing quantity, quantifying the scope of a project. You have to have those systems in place, okay? And use those systems efficiently, because time is of the essence. You don't have a lot of time when you're bidding work. So you have to use your mathematical skills, your geometry, your algebra, and so forth to find out how much paint that you need for a room. Find out how many shingles you need for a roof. Okay. Once you get that down on paper and get it organized, and get it into your separate cost code categories, that's your labor, that's your materials, that's your subcontracts, and that's your equipment. Those are the four basic categories. Then you come up with a direct cost. Once you have a direct cost, you add your soft cost on top of those direct costs, which come with every project, okay, how big or small. And after you do that, if you quantify those costs and you add your margin, your profit, then you want to go into the actual bid phase. The bid phase is actually taking that estimate of probable cost for this construction project and putting it in a form that the client is willing to accept. And it can come in all shapes, sizes, but once you do that, then you become a responsible bidder and you're in the ball game. So, you'll either be successful or you'll see how much you lost it.
Okay. And then like you said, I mean, it sounds like you have to do a pretty good amount of research. What are some of the things that you look at when you are deciding to pursue a project and they come out with the scope of work and provide you with any reference materials to prepare your bid?
Right. Well, the first thing I look at, if we're talking about a traditional competitive bid, I look at the construction documents. And basically, they'll come in the form of a set of plans drawn up by the architect, engineer, and specifications provided by the architect, engineer, and sometimes the client. Depending on who the client is, depending on what the project is, the client themselves will come with a hefty slate of specifications tailored to their project. So those are the principal documents that I review. I also look to see if this is a project that I'm proficient in. I mean, there's some projects that I'll say, well, I want to do that. I want to see, about doing that. Okay, because I know the basic rudiments of it, but a lot of times, because time is tight, I want to rely on my muscle memory. I want to know, okay, I want to do projects that I know I can do. Okay, I can build a house, I can restore a commercial building of a certain size. I don't chase skyscrapers. That's ridiculous because I'm not that type of company. But there's a certain project type that I'm used to. I do roofing as well, and I mostly do residential roofing or commercial roofing that is residential like. So, to boil it down, one thing you're looking for is this project in my lane? Okay. What are the documents? Let me review the documents. And is this project something I'm capable of doing? Another thing that you do is you actually go to the site. A lot of people make mistakes by not actually going to the project site and looking at the on-site conditions. That within itself can lead to some pretty unsuccessful bids. Because you if you bid a project sight unseen, and the next thing you have the project, and then you realize it's going to take a substantial amount of equipment that you didn't count on to do this project, then you've lost money, by signing on the dotted line. So those are some of the things those are some of the processes I go through when I'm contemplating an estimate in a bid.
Okay. Yeah, those are all good points, Kenneth. Thank you. So what is the difference? Because I heard you sort of use bidding and estimating. What's the difference between the estimating process and the bidding process?
Okay. I would say the estimate is a function of the bid. The estimate is the process by which you quantify the scope of work. Regardless of what it is, you use math, you use reasoning, you use your own experience, you use other people's experience to put together an estimate, right? So if I'm bidding a roof and it's a simple gable roof, I'm going to take the square footage of that roof, and then I'm going to apply, because I have certain unit costs that I've developed over time, using my experience and my current costs. I'm going to apply unit costs for the most part of that gable roof. Not 7 times out of 10 that works for something that simple. I'm also going to go to the site, right, and see if there's any specialized equipment that I need to do this roof, right? So that's part of putting together an estimate. It's the mathematics involved to come to the number. Now, once I have the number, there's a whole nother process that you need to go through in order to put the bid together, right? As a client, I worked on all sides of construction. I've been an owner's rep for Florida State University and for the state of Florida on some pretty big projects. And we had a standard bid form that we required of the bidders. And, I need to know, you need to tell me if you've seen every addenda that we issued, every change to the bid that we've issued. I want you to acknowledge that that you've read those, because I don't want you coming to me after you've won the bid saying, "Oh, I didn't see that." I want you to tell me. I want you to check that off on your bid form. Very important. I want to know that you have the proper bonding in order to perform the bid. Okay. I want to know that you have the proper insurances. I want to know, a lot of things on top of what is it going to cost for me to get this project. So the estimate is developing the number, your probable cost of the project, and the bid is actually you taking that cost and qualifying yourself, pre-qualifying yourself as a responsible bidder. So those are the two processes. Those are the distinctions I make.
Okay, and then when you were talking about the estimating piece, you said that you rely on your experience or use other people's experience. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more in terms of, because we may have some newer companies on that might not have as much experience of their own. So what may be some of the resources when you mention relying on other people's experience?
Great question, Keith. Okay, and I do this all the time. I've been in construction for a while, but constantly relying on other people's experience, because I'm a general contractor. I don't know it all. So when it comes to waterproofing, we'll use an easy one. I will often rely on a consultant. Maybe it's a local painter who just is the bomb.com in terms of painting and joint sealants, or maybe it's Sherwin-Williams, you know, the place that I buy the paint from. They're experts. They're experts because they sell they sell the material. Let's say that I'm trying to do something where it's high work. I'm working on a 3-story building. I'm removing trusses because there was a fire and I need to replace 12 trusses. I go to our local equipment supplier and I say, look, I need to, you know, do this activity. What is the most efficient rigging or the most efficient machine that I can use? Is it a crane? Is it a telescoping low a forklift? What can I use that's efficient and that's powerful and that's safe for this particular type of activity that we're going to do? So this has a direct effect on your bid, right? Because if in my own experience, I'm thinking crane, it's more than a notion to get a crane to a job site. It takes time, it takes manpower, it takes, you know, you preparing the ground for the crane. But if the supplier says, no, man, no, you can have the same amount of power with, you know, renting this telescoping low, and you know, I can get that in easily. It takes, you know, less than a couple of hours as opposed to a day. I might have saved, you know, $2,000-3,000, you know, and what it takes to get that crane out on site. So there's not one way to build a building. All kind of ways, all kind of scenarios. So using those industry experts, whether it be a subcontractor, whether it be a supplier, a materialman, that is what I mean by using those other experts out there to help you, because they want to sell their product. Subcontractors want to work for you, right? So a lot of times they will gladly provide that information for you. So don't try to do this, lean on your own understanding. Nobody in the industry does. So we all have to have those external experts to help us out.
All right, excellent. Thank you. That's real insightful. I appreciate that explanation. So we're talking about the estimator, and you know, we've got some clients here that are large enough and have the capacity to have a estimator, you know, within their company. Mm-hmm. But for maybe other businesses involved in the construction trade that don't have that capacity, would you recommend them working with an estimator when they start to prepare their bids?
Sure. Be very careful. If you don't have the capacity to do those type of estimates yourself, there are people out there that provide those services, and I'm sure there are good people out there that provide those services. But do your research. You want to know what their track record is. You want to know what their successes are, because they're estimators, and then there are people who claim they're estimators. That's all I can say. I mean, you literally staking your reputation, your bottom line on someone else that's not necessarily tied to your company. And I understand, estimators are expensive because they impact the bottom line. You get a good estimator, they're worth their weight in gold. But definitely, if you don't have that type of capacity and knowledge, that is one way of trying to enhance your chances of being more successful in bids. But just do your research. Do your research is my advice on that.
Okay, thank you. So talk to me about, from your perspective, what are some of the common mistakes that contractors make when preparing bids?
Okay. Errors and omissions. I mean, just number one, those are the chief's mistakes. You're talking anywhere from mathematical errors to the simple rounding error where you meant to say 1 million and you said 100,000 on it, and that's a killer right there. And oftentimes, an owner or a project manager or whomever, they'll see that and they'll pull you to the side and say, "Look, I know you didn't mean to put that there. Tell me if you did now." Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to have a successful project. So, those type of errors, get caught or thrown out. But they're all kind of subtle errors. One error that I made, and I think about it to this day. I was using a spreadsheet. It was perfect. Spreadsheet was perfect, but I neglected to put a formula in a cell that was further down the sheet. And I was so, I just knew I had it going on or whatever. And it was a perfect bid and it didn't calculate. And so it didn't roll it down. And I think I cost myself probably like $2,000 or $3,000. And it wasn't a glaring type of error because it was a long estimate. But I went back and something didn't quite add up after I won the job. And I was like, wow, that's a dead cell. I actually typed something in there and it didn't calculate. So a lot of times you got to understand when you're using automated systems, they don't have a brain. It's only what you put into it. So you really need to check it and you need to have somebody else check it, which leads me to the next thing. Producing estimates in a bubble. You never want to do that. You want to, you produce the estimate, but you want to have other eyes on that estimate. You want to make sure that you're being proofread, not just the numbers, but the words that you put into that bid. A lot of times you can have the right number, but you can write the wrong words in there. You can say the wrong things, and that can cost you money. So estimating and bidding is not just a function of how good a mathematician you are, but it's also a function of how effective a communicator you are. You want to be able to, again, tell that client what you're selling to them and get a meeting of the minds and understand what they're buying. So it's those type of things that are mistakes in the bidding and estimating process. And also, again, I can't emphasize this enough. Go to the site. Go to the site. Go to the site. Do not, at all costs, do not submit a bid without at least looking at the site once. It will open your eyes as to the other small things that you need to do in order to provide a good, solid bid that you can stand behind and sleep at night.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So we got time for maybe a couple of more questions for you. So one thing you mentioned soft costs. Can you talk to us a little bit about soft costs and how to go about incorporating soft costs into your bid? So what are those soft costs, and what things should our audience anticipate looking at when they try to determine their soft costs?
Okay. So basically, bids estimates break down very simply in a very high level into direct costs and indirect costs, which we call soft costs, right? Direct costs obviously are costs associated with actually building the building, the concrete, the wood, the human beings that put it together. But the soft costs are very necessary, and in today's environment, you can't, put a project together without them. But there are things like, your home office. I don't do all this stuff out of a truck, right? I have an office. There are phones in that office. There's internet. There's an admin, and it's that equipment and it's those people that help me to build these buildings. I can't do it without them. And those are part of the soft costs, and they come at a cost, right? So if I'm just putting in my estimate, the carpenters and the masons and the concrete placers, and I'm not putting in the fact that I'm paying for the internet so that I can send my bids out or can communicate with clients, or my admin who pushes the paperwork, then I'm cheating myself, and eventually I'm not going to be able to sustain the company. You have to have a portion of that, and you have to put it into every bid. You have insurance. That's a huge soft cost.
Right. Yeah.
All kind of insurances too. Automobile, workers' comp, general liability, and the list goes on and on. You have taxes, right?
Mhm.
Taxes going into that. Project management vehicle. Maybe not the superintendent vehicle, because the superintendent is on the job site, but the project manager shows up from time to time, right? So you have to attribute some costs there. So there's all kind of associated costs that aren't directly tied to putting that building up that should be in every estimate. If you don't put it in that estimate, in that bid, then you're going to wonder why. Just like you talked about before about why does it seem like I'm not making ends meet on these bids? That's why, because you didn't put enough in there, right? And if you find yourself always winning bids, if you're 9 out of 10 in your bids, it's not because you're the bee's knees. It's because you're the low man. You know what I mean? And you're cheating yourself. And you might fight and get the project completed and completed well, but at the end of the day, you're going to work yourself out of business. Because 0 times 0 is 0 at the end of the day.
Right.
Okay. I hope I answered that. I rambled on that, but
no, that was a great answer. Thank you. All right, so I don't know if we have any questions from the participants in the audience, the folks on the webinar. Yeah, we do have one question. Is there a video review of the actual electronic bidding system? So that is a question. Is there a video review of the actual electronic bidding
system? So I don't know if this person's talking about something associated with the city or the county. So that would be out of my bailiwick. But if you're talking about bidding systems in general, yeah, there are tutorials of electronic bidding systems. A lot of times when you purchase one, you have some free trials, and you have people who follow up with you to make sure that you're using their product correctly. But so that's my general comment to that.
Okay. And while we're talking about the automated bidding systems, what should you look for? What should you look for if you're trying to identify something, a software package that is a bid prep and estimating software package? What should you look for when you're shopping?
The first thing I would say is you look for something that's intuitive to your knowledge set. One of the first mistakes I made when I started rolling, like back in the day, is I went out and I just purchased this off the shelf product. Didn't know what I was doing because I couldn't afford the systems that I was using when I was working for the big construction company. I was just out of my range, but I knew I needed something, and I didn't ask enough questions. They wanted me to go to Melbourne and sit in a class for like a week to learn their system. I didn't have that kind of time or money, and I just spent more money than I'm willing to admit to buy it, and it just sat there. And it just was not intuitive at all. I was just staring at icons. I think that these product developers do a lot better job now. I think they do much better at trying to help out the end user and using their systems. A lot of more affordable systems that you can pay as you go. But make sure it's an intuitive system. Make sure that it's aligned to what you're used to. So they have the CSI, the construction. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get in trouble for not knowing offhand. But the CSI codes that we use in construction, the divisions. There are systems that are tuned to those codes, and because we as contractors use those codes in our daily lives, it becomes intuitive to you to use it. So just use something that looks like you're used to dealing with on a daily basis. Because if you just jump out there and just use the hottest thing and it winds up being something that's just out there, you're going to waste your money, and it's going to be more work to use it as opposed to you using it for a successful outcome.
All right. Well, thank you again, Kenneth, for all of the information that you provided. It's been very, very enlightening and informative. So thank you for your perspective and years of experience that you shared with us and our listening audience. And so we'd like to thank everyone for joining us. We hope that this was helpful. And if you have any questions or need any additional information, please reach out to the good folks, Daryl Jones and his team at the Office of Economic Vitality. They will be able to point you in the right direction, and they do a great job at providing resources. So thank you all for joining us, and I hope you have a great, productive day.